In this video, I want to show you an overview of Jewelbeetle version 1. And I'm just going to kind of go through the menus, the different toolbars, kind of give you a lay of the land as to where to find things. I'm not going to cover any particular things in great detail. I just kind of want to have this be an introduction to where to find your way around. So up at the top, like a normal Windows program, we have File, Edit, View. Some other things you may not recognize that are unique to Jewelbeetle is panels. Otherwise, a lot of these are Rhino menus, and so Curve is certainly a Rhino menu, and in that you would find all the Rhino curve commands. So if you've been using Rhino, these would look familiar. If you haven't, as you use Jewelbeetle, you'll certainly learn them. So there's those. So let's start with File, and we have New and Open and Import and so on. Two things that are kind of note are Save as Template and Reset Template. Okay, so as far as a template goes, as a Rhino user or someone that's used to having their own perhaps layer structure, if I go over here and click this little white arrow, this will fly out our other layers, and I have a Kent layer, this nice bright yellow canary color. And so if you have your own layer made, and I'll show how to make these later in the video, and you want that to always be in this layout, okay, so you can go to File and say Save as Template. And now in the future, when you hit File New, then it would have this Kent layer, and it would be this color, and it would be in this location every time. As a note, you cannot change these top 16 layers. We track these and put objects on these layers, and so we don't allow you to change those. But you can certainly change these if you like. And so there you go. And we'll come back to the layers menu here in a moment. Okay, so going across, we have Edit. That's all usual stuff, copy, paste, undo, redo. We can also do undo and redo right here, or use the typical Windows shortcut keys, of course. As we work our way across, okay, we have the Help pull down. All right, and in there are some troubleshooting things. If you're having some sort of trouble where you want to reset that sassy template that you made, and maybe you don't want a Kent 01 layer or Kent layer, then you can reset the template. You can reset the Rhino toolbars, all this stuff. Usually, I don't mess around with this unless I'm having trouble, and I usually would reach out to our support anyway. We have a forum. It's open to everyone. Anyone can join. So there's a link to the forum. And then we will have tutorials. We're working on those. And so on. Here's our end user license agreement. At any given time, as a Jewelbeetle user, if you get an update, you will get release notes when it installs. But if you want to see those again, then you can say, hey, I'd like to see those release notes again. What did you add, or what did you change or fix? So there you go. And then here's About, and this will tell you how many licenses you have. This is the actual version number. You can see that we're now on version 1. This is the year 25, and this is the 26th day of the year, and so that's what this code here means. And then I'm on the second build of the day, 7002, 7 being the fact that I am running this demo in version 7 of Rhino. And as you can see that, I'm over here, and there's the version of Rhino that I'm running. So there you go. Another cool thing under File right here is Recent Files. So if you've saved or opened something recently, you can get back to that very quickly by going to the recent files right there. Okay, one other thing that I mentioned in these top pull downs is the panels, okay? And these are panels, the category, shade mode, layers, projects, and so on. So as you will notice, up here under panels, we have shade modes, layers, projects, the ones I just mentioned, okay? So if I were to turn off the layers panel, it would disappear from the layout. You can come right back up here again and turn it back on, okay? As far as panels go, you can double click them and they will fly out, and you can place them wherever you like. So if you have more than one monitor, then you could set this over on another monitor, and then once you laid everything out, 'cause some people, they prefer to have as much viewport space as possible. So you could fly all of these out and move them. And then once you had that the way you wanted it, then you could save the current layout, okay? We have some stock ones from Jewelbeetle right here, switch to layout 1, switch to layout 2. Or if you just get this completely messed up, and let's say you have stuff all over the place, or while you're at lunch, somebody comes in and decides to do this to you, then you could come over here to panels and say reset current panel layout, and we would put it back the way it goes with Jewelbeetle. You can also right click on these and move them. So if you don't want, maybe you want layers to be above shade modes. Maybe that's the way you like to roll. So you could literally just go to position and then go to the right. And I wouldn't say move to the top, I would say move up. And that way it moved up one and put shade mode here and layers up here. I'm going to go ahead and say move down, because if anybody messes with my panel, that's not fun for me. I'm a creature of habit, and this is the layout that I use, which happens to be the default. Okay, so you can always right click here and you can dock left or right. That's the side of the screen. You can say float, which is the same as double clicking, and so you can play around with those. And if you get in trouble, just go reset the current one. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's go back up to the top and go across here. Right here we have O-snaps. So in Rhino, these are object snaps. That's how you snap to the end of a line, the mid of a line, etc. Right now, the overall O-snaps is on. Okay, if I uncheck this or turn it off, you'll notice that we have a dark color and a lighter color. So when it's on, this one and this one are not on. It's not an option for an O-snap, so that's center and not. Okay, so if I click here, then I turn off perpendicular. But what we do is when you turn off globally, we remember which ones you had on. That way when you come back, they're on again. So that's the way that works. Here we have project, which is project down to a C-plane when you're drawing. Here's planar, where it stays on the same plane that you started drawing at. And then ortho and smart track. Here's history and history purge or remove history. We have a grid snap, where if you want to snap to the grid, you can pick the units. Let's go ahead and click that. Now it's on. You can pick the units. So if we zoom in here and let's just go ahead and you can see that I'm snapping to every ½ millimeter. And you can pick how fine or coarse you want that to be. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. We also have a gem outline. So as you're placing gems or working with gems, you might want an indicator as to how close a gem is to another gem or to an object and so on. So you can turn that on, okay? And then this is the offset distance or the outline distance away from the girdle of the gem. And I'm going to come back to gem builder, but there's where you can see that. So if I go ahead and place that gem, then when I come back over here, there's my 0.2, or if you want to overlap those, now I know from girdle to girdle that those are 0.2 away from each other. Okay, so there's that. All right, the next thing we have is common buttons, and these are what we consider things that you do a lot of the time. Most of them are Rhino commands. This one is our finger rail, of course. So here we have join, split, trim, move, mirror, rotate, etc. Okay, if you click on the finger rail, that's something you might do a lot. Here we can see that I'm on a size 7 for the US finger sizes, but we support all these different regions. And so you can even do a custom one and enter in your own sizes. If you say, hey, your size 7 is, 0.2 millimeters off of mine, okay, then you could set up your own custom one. So freedom of choice. Okay, and to the right of that is command history. So as you use the program, we populate this so that if you're down in a menu, let's say I'm in the curve menu and I do some things. Let's go ahead and just I'll draw a rectangle and maybe a circle, and then later on, as I'm working, I can come over here and go, oh yeah, I need another square because maybe I'm hanging out over here, but I do keep an eye on over here because you can get back to those buttons very quickly. So this just goes across and it goes till it runs off the screen, and if you have a really big screen, then you get more of them. I'm on a lowly 1080p monitor, and so everybody makes fun of me, and all the people with like billboard monitors on their desk are they have a lot more command history buttons. But I made sure I clicked on our image trace builder so that there would be a bug out here, a little beetle out there. All right, so that's how that is. Speaking of lines and curves and surfaces, over here is the categories. All right, so these are the major categories where all the tool sets are kept. All right, so we have the curve. You'll notice that the color gray is the same color as all the buttons, so we have that here. Surface, many of these are Rhino functions. Every once in a while there will be sprinkled in something that's unique to Jewelbeetle. For instance, over here we have, under curve, we have extract angled ISO curve. So that is not a Rhino command. That is a Jewelbeetle. And now that I've talked about it, you probably want to see that now. But let me make a surface really quick. And I'm actually going to put that on a metal layer. And when we go ahead and click on this, Rhino has extract ISO curve, and it's going to go either vertical or horizontal. But what this tool does is this allows you to press the letter A for angle, and it'll go ahead and change the angle of the ISO curve that you're making. You can type it in right here too if you want, but now when you just left click as many times as you want, then I'm going to press A again, and then we can come down here, and there you go. So extract angled ISO curve. There's one that is a Jewelbeetle command down in the curves. But now we have solid, transform. I think you get the idea. Here's our auto flow command right there in transform. We've got dimensions, setting, head builder, prongs on a gem row. We got a prong builder and a prong on surface. Um, Under tools, uh, we've got our finger rail, outside finger rail, and our profile placer. And then we've got an object on curve over here, and then other Rhino commands as well. So jewelry is a lot of room for expansion. As you can see, there's one thing. We will have more jewelry tools down the road, but here's a signet builder. Cutters, here's cut to finger rail, cutters for gems, a channel cutter, micro prong cutter. And then we support sub-D modeling through Rhino, okay? And so here's all the subdivision commands right here. And then of course under production we have things like telling me the metal weights of an object. Here's our model repair where it'll take separate objects and make them into one closed mesh surface, or it will even repair naked edges or missing surface triangles or even B-reps or surfaces can be fixed with that, but it ends up being a mesh for production. Here's our ring resizer and other mesh tools. In keeping with categories and commands and the command history, we have another feature that I actually have turned off. I like to have as much real estate for the viewports as I can, so I really don't have this command on much or this toolbar open, but let me show you where it is. Since it's hidden, this would be a good time to introduce you to the gear. And this is for preferences. So this is a gear that is preferences for the layers menu, for the shade modes menu, for the projects menu. And so anytime you're in any of our panels, and or even if you want to know, hey, what can I set in the program to make it my own? Maybe I don't want Sketch to be the first layer that comes on every time I'm running Jewelbeetle. Maybe I like the Work 01 layer menu to be the default layer. Okay, well, you can change all that. So let's take a look at the gear. And right here is the one that I was talking about, where we say, okay, the default layer when you start the program is Sketch, and that's usually what I keep. But like I said, Work 01 is right here. And so now when I click Save on this, then Work 01 will be the default layer when we start up. Let me hit File New here. There you go. Now it's Work 01, and that's where it'll start. Okay, so let me come back to the Layers menu, for instance, this one. And let's go to General. And down here is Show User Toolbar. You can see that it's unchecked, so it's off. The minute I click that, then up it comes up here, okay? And I have this set up already, so I went ahead and made one time, and here's what I have. I have the line command, the blend command for curves, and sweep 1, sweep 2. And so the way you can populate this is very easy. You click the Edit User Toolbar pencil, and then you can see that when this is lit up like this, it's ready to go. And so you can literally come over to any menu, in this instance curve, and maybe I want helix, so I would just drag this over here and put helix here. And then I could come over to tools, and maybe I want show edges. Maybe that's a good one to have at any given time. And so you can populate this however you want. If down the road you decide you don't want something in there like helix, then you drag it over to the trash can and throw it away. And then when you're done, you press the green button and you're now out of edit mode. And there's your user toolbar that you get. And then if you don't want that on, there's a gear right here for that as well. And let's go ahead and show user toolbar is now off. Okay. The other cool thing is if you don't know quite what you're looking for, but you know you want to have something to do with layer, you can come over here and you can search for a particular item right here. But I don't really have an example for that, but you can search. Let me just try toolbar. Yeah, there you go. So you're like, hey, where's that user toolbar he was talking about? Show user toolbar right there. And then you can hit X and it'll go back to everything that was in the general. There you go. I guess I did have an example for that. Okay, in keeping with all that, one thing about layers, I really feel like this type of setup is just a lot more intuitive than, Rhino gives you a lot of different controls for controlling the layer, which are certainly important. And as far as that goes, if you are a Rhino user and you're like, hey, where even is the Rhino menu? We have that mapped to F3 on the keyboard, and it came up on my other monitor, but here it is. Here, let me close it. And if I press F3, then up it comes. And you can populate this however you want with their gear. And if you want the layer menu, then I would pick layers, and there's their layer menu. Okay, so you can get to this anytime you want. Like I say, we have it mapped to F3 in Jewelbeetle. Having said that, to get to these extra layers, you'll notice there's this white triangle. Well, you may not want this to fly out this way. You might want it to extra layers appear below. Well, that's off, so the layers appear to the right. If we check this, you'll notice that the triangle jumps to the bottom. Okay, so I'll go ahead and save that, and so now it opens this way and nothing flies over your screen. If you do run this the other way, and I tend to do that, if at any given time you're working on a bunch of different objects and you're putting things on this flyout, you can pin it and it'll stay there no matter what I click around out here. This will stay. When you're done with it, you can unpin it, and then when you click in the viewport, away it goes. Okay, I think we're covering quite a bit here. Let's keep going before people start to fall asleep. Beneath that, we have projects, okay, and this is a very handy storage system where you can store all your different files that you're working on any given project, okay? And so here you can see I have a list of different jobs, okay? These are job numbers, and then in that job I have different items. Now this one is just one I made. I don't typically put a whole bunch of different types of rings. Usually it's just one item like so. So here you can see it's the same ring being built, and every time I feel like I should save it, I save it, because that's when you should save it. If you don't feel like saving it, then that's how you lose stuff. But as far as that goes, you can actually pick what you want to see in here. In other words, right now it's all just job bags, which is the geometry that I've saved, okay? If I do full saves, which I'll show you in a second, then it shows just those. If I click on Other, this is a STL file. It's called 3-Stone Ring STL, and that's one that I made for production, okay? If you have pictures in here, whether it's a PNG or a JPEG, then you can save those in this folder, and then they only show up when you pick here. Or you can say all, and it'll show everything. Okay. Over here, you can make the images bigger or smaller. All right, and there's a lot of control in here. You can right-click on here and go to the Windows folder for this. You can rename the row, delete it, hide, show. There's a lot of different controls in here. But as far as that goes, I'm going to go ahead and make my default demo model, which of course is a torus, otherwise known as a donut. And to save this, I would just hit the orange button and place that into the job bag. Okay, so this is what we would call a job bag inside the projects folder. Okay, if you have a whole bunch of things on the screen, and you have layers turned off with items on those layers, and you just want to do like a file save. I want to save everything no matter what state the program is in, then you would hit the blue button. Okay, so as you look here, then you'll notice that I have in the corner, where are they? I think they're one of the, oh yeah. In the corner, you see this blue icon, okay? That indicates that this was a full save. When I click on this image, it says, hey, do you want to save the modified design? The modified design, of course, is my my fabulous donut here. I say, no, I don't need it. And then it will load that whole file, okay? And you can see that I have layers turned off, all right? And so there's the items that have all come back because I did a full save. So it's up to you how you want to save that, but we give you the freedom of choice to do that. One thing that's cool that's in version 1 of Jewelbeetle that we didn't have before is the ability to have different locations for the projects. Okay, so right here I have my Jewelbeetle projects, and this is where I do development and where I've been, adding things that I'm working on as we develop Jewelbeetle. Then I have my Kent projects where we've been in this whole time. And what's really fun is if you're in a company where maybe you have a couple different stores, or maybe you have a bunch of stores, or maybe you just have separate users that have different locations, well, you can come in and add a new location, and I'm going to go to Dropbox. And there's a company that I do work with, and one of the people I work with, Patrick, has his location that he simply calls job bags, okay? So I'm going to say okay, and then this is Patrick projects. And now, when I click here, these are all projects in a Dropbox folder somewhere else, happens to be down in Texas. And so we can steal all of Patrick's projects. But there you go. So this is really pretty handy. Even if you just use on your own hard drive different locations, maybe you maybe at night you're designing a new kitchen, so maybe you have a different location where it's all drawings for that project. Then you can just jump over to another one. So it's pretty handy. Okay, so down here at the lower left we have the properties panel. Let me show you what that's about. I'm going to go ahead and load number 11 here. Okay, so this is a project where I was building something and I have all sorts of flow surfaces and curves and all that jazz. So at any given time, if you select an object, let's say this one, that is a closed poly surface. Let's go ahead and I'm going to hold down Shift and pick some more things. All right, well now I have 5 closed poly surfaces, but let me add this to the selection. Well, there's a planar surface, okay? And if you wanted to know what is, well, let's do this. Let's, for fun, real quick, I'm going to go ahead and slice through an object. So let's pick this one, and I'm going to say U get split by U, and so now that is split. Okay, so let's come over here again, and we're going to select these items. So the way the properties works is it takes inventory of whatever you clicked on, and I have planar curves, planar closed curves, but the one I'm really interested in is I have 2 open surfaces, poly surfaces, and I'm like, oh, which I can't tell which one is, I have too many things selected. So when you click on that, it'll show you the open poly surfaces. It's these two. Then you can come in here and investigate. I'm like, oh, there's that one. I'll hold down shift and that one, and then I'll hit join. And now it is a closed poly surface. So we're always looking at this to tell you what's going on. Let's go ahead and select a whole bunch of stuff. There we go. And now we can see I have a 14 by 10 oval, 6.31 carats. I think whoever gets this will be happy with that ring. Then we have 1.2s, 1.4s. Here's how many we have of each one. And then the total carat weight for these gems is 6.49 out of 9 stones. Okay, and then here's the rest of it. You can even see what size the finger is right here. Now, at any given time when you're working, and maybe you have some really big meshes or a whole bunch of things and you keep selecting them, this can take a moment to open up, and it actually can kind of, get a little frustrating with it constantly having to figure things out over and over and over again when you just want to select things and be able to work. Okay, it's really not that big a deal, but what you can do is you can click this button and turn this off. Okay, so now when I'm moving things around or introducing a bunch of things, this does not update because it's paused or stopped. And then if I click go again, now it's back to doing its thing of just that item. So that's pretty cool. I turn that off every once in a while when I have a lot of big stuff on the screen. Okay, let's move on, and I don't have that much more to talk about. A couple things. Down here in the lower left, it shows what version you're on. As you remember, up under help and about, it shows that, but at a glance you can see what version you're on right here. If you've been working all day, just had your head down, built 10 models, number one, you should probably go see the sun. But number two, you might go, well, gee, I worked so long and so hard, I wondered if the Jewelbeetle team came out with an update, at which point you could come down here and check for update, and if there is one, it would start downloading it for you. Okay, right now there is not one, and as you can see up here, I'm on the latest version. Okay, and then let's see, to the right is what Rhino version you're running. If you open a file, then we'll put the name of the file right here, but right now I'm on a new document because I imported this job bag. I didn't open it. Okay, and so to the right of that is document notes. Okay, so at any given time, you might want to say, hey, this is version 23 of this ring, and they need to make up their mind if they really want it, or whatever you want to say, and then that gets saved with the file. So there's those notes right there. Okay, so that's pretty cool. This is information about an object. So if, for instance, you draw a circle, this is just a quick demo of this, and you say, well, how big is this circle? It's 13.358 X and Y, and it has no height to it at all. But you have to be careful. It's not always a true representation. In other words, this line is this long, but if I rotate that, it's based on a bounding box. So now from here to here is only 9.7, but from here to there is 14.59. So it's just a bounding box size of an object. Right here you can turn the gumball on and off. Okay, so if I click that, it's off and now it's on. I don't know why you'd want to turn off the gumball. It's so handy, but some people do not like the gumball. Down over to the right of that is what layer things are on. Okay, so right now with nothing selected, okay, the current layer is, as you can see, work 01, and there's 41 items on that layer. If I come over here and switch to cutter, then cutter is the current layer and there's 0 items on that. But at any given time you might go, well, what layer is this gem on? Is it gem 2 or 3? Well, you can kind of tell because there's numbers on there. But if I select it, it'll come up and say, oh, that item is on gem 03. Okay? And you have just one selected out on the screen. If I hold down shift and pick this one, then there's 2 on gem 3. If I click once here, then that is metal 02 right there. All right. And that's pretty much it. If we go to the right here, this is a timer where you can start the timer, and if you're working on a project and you charge by the hour or minute or whatever, or if you're just curious so you can do your billing, how long things are taking you and so on, you can start and stop this timer, and it will auto shut off after X amount of time, so that if you get a phone call and completely space it, you won't be off by too much as far as the time goes. Okay, I think what I really want to close out with is, I'm going to hit File New, and we have builders. We have some functions that we call features, but we also have builders, and builders show up on the right side in, go figure, the builder section. So if we go to gems and we click on gem loader, and let's do here's a 6.4, almost basically a carat size gem. You can click through all the different gems in gem loader. It's back to a 5 now because I left that stone and it loaded the other stone sizes. But I'm going to go ahead and just right click and hit or hit enter or hit the space bar in Rhino. Those are all the same things, and that'll finish the builder and load that geometry onto the screen. Another new builder that we have for version 1 is of course a head builder, which you would expect us to have, and we're at the time I'm making this video, we're still adding to this. There's more that we're going to do to it, but let's go ahead and click it. And one thing that's tough with a builder like this is knowing how big a head and how many rails and how big the rails are and so on we should put on any given gem, because if the gem is really small and we put prongs this big on it, it'll not work, and if we have too big a stone and we put small prongs, you get the idea. So having said that, you can come over here to our library, which is the little book here, and browse presets, and then you match up the closest head that you can. So here I have more to add to this, but the closest one to this one is a 4-prong 6mm head or stone, and when I click that, you can see that the proportions become better, okay? And it tucked the rail up a bit, made the bottom rail. But in any builder, some have more than one tab. Here's the overall, and here's the rails, okay? But you also have, there's 3 ways to basically control this, okay? There's the command line, where you can say, here's exactly what I want the overall height to be of this. Okay, so you could click that and type 5 for 5 millimeters, and now our head is 5 millimeters tall. Or you could come out into the viewport, okay, and over here is overall height, and you can move that. If you hold down shift, it'll snap to whole tenth increments, okay? Or, as if that's not enough, yours free to keep with Jewelbeetle is also over here. You could pick the icon that represents overall height. So if you're like, man, all these arrows, I'm going kind of crazy, you could just go, oh, that looks like overall height, and then you could come slide the slider. And again, you could hold down shift and it would snap to tenths in this case. And then if you come over to rails, you can go, oh man, I want a top rail, or I don't want a top rail. I just want a bottom rail, and I'm going to make it real thick, like if it was a small stone, okay? And it kind of goes on and on. You can even choose what type of rail. If you don't want this kind of rail where it has the seat cut in it and so on, maybe you just want a circular one, like a jump ring type one. Well, then you can go to our gallery rail and switch that. And so now that is just a round rail. So you kind of have freedom of choice. You can mix it up and change what kind we're putting there, and all the dimensions and so on. When you're done, number one, if you really like this one, and maybe I would want this a little thicker, so let's do that. Couldn't help it. Then you could go back and you could add that preset as your own. Okay, so you could just save it, and pretty soon you'll have them all mixed up as in made, and then you'd have your own library of those. So I'm just going to hit enter and commit that to the viewport, and there we go. Okay, the last thing I want to leave you with is rendering. So I've got a ring out of here, out of job bag number 20. And to the right of builders is render. Okay, and so we've got some major buttons up here, and then let's click on the first one. This is the materials tab. All right, so we've got gem materials, metal materials. We've got some ground planes, or what the ring is sitting on, plastic, fabric, wood, stone, etc. Got some emitters. Miscellaneous is where other stuff will go. Having said that, if we go to metals, under metals we have different finishes of metal. So we have polished, and then satin, sandblast, bead blast, and hammer. Okay, so let's go ahead and render something, and the way that I'm going to do this is, let's go ahead and I'm going to right click on the metal layer to select all 1072 objects on there, and under polished I'm going to go down to yellow carat gold, double click that, and by double clicking it, it applies yellow gold to 1072 objects. Okay, the other way you can do this, and by the way, this is our toast notification down here. If you mouse over the toast notification, it thinks you want to read it for a long time, so it stays there. That's by design. If you're done with it, you click it and it goes away. If you don't mouse over the, I'll show you on the next one. So if I go here and go to gems, I'm going to pick ruby. I'm going to click that once and then hit apply. You can do it that way too. There comes the toast, ruby, but if I don't mouse over it, then it goes away on its own. So there you go. I'm going to do everything else as a diamond. And so I'm going to right click this layer, right click. Those are all going to be double click diamonds. And then zoom in here. Over here, we have our options, okay? We can choose the resolution. You can add your own resolution by hitting the plus, go figure, and you just name the resolution. We can render very large. Here's a 15,360 by 8,640. I've rendered at over 20,000 by something. Takes a minute, but you can do it. Okay, safe frame, that shows you what's going to be in the render. Okay, so I can come over here and get this all nice and straightened out and turn that off if it bothers you. Anyway, we can show a ground plane or not. First, I'm going to go ahead and just hit render. Okay, so click that. And it brings up the render menu window. And you'll notice by not assigning a ground plane, it renders over a transparent background. So that's pretty handy. If you have something that you want to drop in behind it or something, well, then you could, when this is done, save it as any 32-bit file would do. If you're going to do a PNG with transparency, that'd be fine. You can see that the render's done. That was a 23-second render. One of the things that we really wanted out of the Bella render engine is speed, and so we mixed up materials and did things that we felt looked good but still went fast. And so, as I mentioned, we're using the Bella render engine, great company, Diffuse Logic, and we're real happy with what it can do, and it's a physics-based render engine, so it's based on real-world indexes of refraction and all those big words that it uses to make cool renders. All right, so let's close that. And so in the options, I can say show ground plane, then I can go back to materials, go to planes, and let's pick I don't know, maybe this glass gray. Let's double click that. Click, click. So that is now applied to the ground plane. And I'm going to pick, oh, we have a tool. I want to lay this ring down so it's like it's sitting on the ground plane, like laying down. And under tools, we have this sassy button right here called lay down ring. And it just sits here and waits for the moment that you want to lay down a ring. And it's like, oh, I got you, man. This is all I do. I just lay down rings. And so now we hit enter, and it's thinking about that, and it laid down the ring. So there you go. And let's go ahead and we could hit the safe frame again. Yeah, I was going to be off. See? That's how that goes. And let's hit render. Okay, so now we have this glossy gray background, and so we're going to have a lot of ground planes that you can load in here. We'll have some leather ones and stone ones and wood ones and all that jazz. And so here's, you can see the progress going once again, and there we go. That one with the ground plane and all the reflections that went with it, that added about 7 seconds, if I remember right, the other one. So still not too bad. 31 seconds for that render, I'll take it. Okay, so that pretty much is, under environments, you can control how intense the environment light is. And you can also rotate the HDR environment image. That's a whole nother conversation. We have animation tools so that if you wanted this ring to spin around as a 360 animation, you can do that. And then we'll convert that, all those frames that it renders into an MP4, and you can use on your website or in your store or whatever. And so let's take a look. I'll show a couple, let me load a couple renders here real quick. Okay, so here's some renders. Here's a gray wood. It's got some scratches in it and like dust for realism and stuff. That'll be one of the ground planes, and got a slight reflection on it. Here's some of the metal colors, yellow, rose, and white, obviously. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. There's a bracelet. I introduced a spotlight over here for drama. So we got it over here, and that creates these long shadows that are kind of fun. And here's a render with kind of a concrete-like stone here. It's got a bump map on it. And here's the different metal. Here's bead blast, hammer, sand blast, satin, and polished. And then coming back around, here's satin again, sandblast, hammer, and bead blast. So there you go. Here's one of the fabrics, got a big old diamond in there. And here's some more rings with various colored gemstones and so on. So I think you get the idea. These are all done, no tricks. This is that same gray background. I just have more rings on it, a little bigger resolution, but these are the same materials I've just been applying, and no photo retouching or any, no tricks. So there you go. That's really about it for, oh, that's not it for rendering. The other thing that you can do is over here, you know, we have our shade modes where you can do wireframe and plastic. And let me turn off the show save frame. There we go. So anyway, over here on the far left is the Bella render for the viewport. And so this just runs the Bella render engine right inside the viewport. So after you get your design done, if you're sitting there showing off for one of your customers, you can just hit this, and you might say, well, here's what it looks like from here, and you can see it's sitting here, and we call this baking. It's making the render better and better the longer you give it, okay, up to a point. But I can go ahead and rotate the viewport like so. Now, it's not a real-time renderer. As you can see, the minute I let go, it starts baking. And now it's going to go ahead and, like I say, it'll get better and better. But you can show your customer from different angles what that ring looks like. And away you go. A lot of the time, rather than, you know, here the environment's really bright on this side of the HDR map, so it's kind of blowing it out there. I tend to stick to kind of the darker side here, and you might be best off to simply grab the ring and rotate it if you wanted to see the back. That way you're not moving the viewport. So there you go. It's really, like I say, it's really pretty quick. So it's sitting here doing that render. So that's it. You can render just right in the viewport. Looks really good. And there you go. Thanks for watching.